Finally, I would like to introduce Caroline Trump as our last team leader. Caroline was an intern on the SOBA team this past spring semester, and she really distinguished herself early on in the semester. I knew by the second biweekly that she would be a team leader because of the way that she took charge at meetings, immediately provided structure, and really, you'll be able to tell just from the way she speaks and carries herself, what a great person she is. She built a very unique culture in her team that we are very proud of. It's unique to not only CCW, but the team itself. Caroline?
Thank you, Val. So as you're about to see, our team has worked very hard this semester, but we couldn't have done it without a little bit of help. So I'd first like to thank our inventor, Chris Stenhafer, and his company, ICEdot, for approaching our team with the problem. Secondly, I'd like to thank our mentor, Tom Appel, as well as the CCEW fellows and staff for the many, many hours that they have logged, helping us to progress our project throughout the semester. And lastly, I'd like to thank the team themselves for being so awesome. We've been able to take a simple idea and turn it into a functioning business model. And our developers and designers have been able to create a functioning iPad application in just a few months. Lastly, I'm going to brag on my team a little bit outside of CCEW. This semester we have 2 outstanding seniors. We've placed top 3 in both the Sooner Launchpad competition as well as the Brezzy Westheimer competition. And we have CCEW's first ever Rhodes Scholar. But that's not as cool as the team themselves. And from the random appearances from George W. Bush and the random usher dance parties in the middle of our meetings, I believe that we have the most fun CCEW team ever. And I've enjoyed every minute I've got to spend working with them and watching them grow throughout the semester. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Team HITdot.
$3.8 million. This is the number of sports-related concussions that occur annually in the United States. Over half of these concussions will go undetected or unreported. This is a problem. Good evening. My name is Mubeen Shakir. I'm a biochemistry senior from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Hi, I'm Susan Morning. I'm a senior entrepreneurship and venture management major from Shawnee, Oklahoma.
I am Jeffrey Ray. I'm a senior petroleum engineering major from Lawton, Oklahoma.
And I'm Parker Dooley, a finance international business major from Tulsa.
I'm Joel Maupin, a junior computer scientist from Norman, Oklahoma.
We have 3 additional software developers on our team, Zach McWilliams, Mahesh Kagata, and Murali Krishnadilla. We have 2 graphic designers, Chris Larberg and Tiffany Handel. Our developing lead is Josh Holmes. Our team leader is Caroline Trump. Our mentor is Tom Appel, CEO of Intrepid Ideas. And our inventor is Chris Stenhafer, CEO of ICEdot. Collectively, we are the Software Business Accelerator team. And this semester, we're very excited to partner with ICEdot, a Tulsa-based company, to bring you the HITdot detection system. The HITdot detection system pairs an accelerometer sensor developed by ICEdot with an iPad application built here at CCEW to solve the problem of undetected concussions in collision sports. We plan to target the high school football market, providing the greatest impact on the problem of undetected concussions and adding a viable venture to ICEdot's current business. To begin, I'd like to give you a better picture of who ICEdot is and what they do. ICEdot is a Tulsa-based company with established connections with the University of Oklahoma. They specialize as a medical and emergency notification service. ICEdot customers can upload their emergency contacts and their medical information onto an ICEdot server, and in return, ICEdot provides their customers with products such as ID cards or wristbands, so that in the case of emergency, this information can be utilized and processed in a timely fashion. Most recently, ICEdot has released a crash sensor for bike helmets. This sensor, synced to an iPhone application, alerts emergency contacts upon the detection of a crash. As you can see, ICEdot has found a niche in a market geared towards individual sports. However, they have a desire to expand their product base into the team sports market. Our team has found the significant problem of undetected concussions in collision team sports that we believe ICEdot can make a significant impact on. The severity of the problem of undetected concussions is perhaps best described by the story of a young man named Zachary Leiston. In 2006, Zach was a football player on his school's team. During the course of a game, Zach sustained a concussion. A concussion occurs when an individual takes an impact to the head, causing the brain to hit the skull and inducing mild brain trauma or swelling. Some of the symptoms Zach most likely had at the time ranged anywhere from nausea to a slight headache. However, during the game, his concussion went undetected and he was allowed to continue playing. As the game progressed, Zach sustained a second impact to the head. However, this time, he fell to the ground, his brain began to swell, and he fell into a coma for 37 days. This is a picture of Zach just a few months after the incident in a wheelchair. When an individual sustains a concussion, they are at extreme risk of severe brain injury if they take a second impact to the head before the initial concussion heals. Fortunately, Zach regained his ability to walk just a few years ago. However, many athletes who will suffer from undetected concussions may not be as fortunate as Zach in their recovery. There are three main reasons as to why concussions go undetected today. The first, concussions go unreported. A recent survey of high school football players showed that 53% of these athletes did not report their concussion symptoms to coaches or trainers. Secondly, concussion symptoms are misunderstood. Due to the varying degree of concussion symptoms, many athletes, trainers, and coaches sometimes view the symptoms of concussions as byproducts of playing the game. And finally, there's a lack of quantifiable data from which coaches and trainers can assess the severity of an impact a player may take to the head that could cause a possible concussion. The HITdot system solves these three problems of undetected concussions. The basic functionality of the HITdot system follows as such. An accelerometer sensor developed by ICEdot will be synced via Bluetooth to the iPad application which our developers have built this semester. This sensor, about the size of a quarter, will be placed inside the helmet of an athlete. Upon the detection of an impact greater than a threshold indicative of a possible concussion, this sensor will send a signal to the iPad application. The HITdot system provides three distinct advantages that will solve the problems of undetected concussions. The first, notification. Upon the detection of an impact greater than the threshold, the HITdot system will alert the user of the iPad application, allowing for coaches or trainers to assess a possible concussion. Second, quantification. The HITdot will provide exact quantifiable data in G-forces, allowing for coaches and trainers to assess the severity of each possible concussive impact. And finally, accessibility. As part of the ICEdot service, each of the players' medical and emergency information will be on the iPad. So in the case of an emergency, coaches and trainers can take the appropriate steps to bring a player to safety. In sum, with these three distinct advantages, the HITdot system will solve the problems of undetected concussions and prevent long-term brain injuries like those suffered by Zachary Leiston. Right now, I'd like to pass it over to Joel, who will give you a look at the design and development of our application thus far. Joel?
Thank you very much, Mubeen. Sorry, forgive me. I would now like to begin by showing you our application and starting off with our login screen here at the front. Primarily like to walk you through the process of adding a player as well as simulating impacts on that player. Should we experience technical difficulties, we will have a working demo after the presentation for those of you who are interested. All right.
Hey.
Begin by opening the application and signing in. Here we're presented with a disclaimer, and this disclaimer is an attempt to effectively inform the user that this application is not a medical diagnostic tool and that impacts shown, while severe, are not indicative of a concussion. I'll begin by accepting this disclaimer, and we will begin to load the player medical data and log into the application. This is our primary roster screen. This is where all players will be displayed, and all impacts will also be displayed. I would now like to place the small sensor into one of these helmets, and we will show you a brief demonstration simulating an impact on the top player, Joel Maupin. As we can see, the cell has been highlighted and a quantifier has been displayed. Upon selection, we will be presented with an option of what to do with the data. For right now, we will save it for later assessment. If I again select the player, I can view his or her impact history in this bottom graph here, as well as any medical information that player chose to upload to ICEdot. If I select one of the impacts, I can assess it to mark any symptoms, as well as add notes to this assessment. Most importantly, I can mark this concussive or non-concussive for later organizational use. We'll go ahead and save this impact and be taken back to the player view screen. In short, by having a simple and clean interface, we hope to effectively display impacts to coaches and trainers. I would now like to turn it over to Susan for a brief analysis of our marketing strategy.
All right. Thank you, Joe. As we've been described and as my teammates so enthusiastically just demonstrated, we have a product that can really meet an unsatisfied need in the collision sports market. We've chosen to target specifically high school football because we believe that's the market segment that will be the most receptive to our product. But let's take a look at how we came to this conclusion. First, we looked at an age distribution of sport-related concussions, where we found that 58% take place in high school, ages 14 to 18. From there, we dissected the market a little bit further and looked at these high school concussions by the sport in which they took place, where we found that 47%, nearly half, take place in football. So these numbers show that there is a need for concussion detection in high school football, but there are also a number of other reasons that we chose this market segment. First, there is increased awareness of the problem of concussions in high school football, and this is evident by the passage of Zachary-Leistat laws in 41 states now. These laws require that high school football teams have some sort of protocol for concussion management on the sidelines. In addition, while there are some similar products to the HITdot, there is currently no market leader for concussion detection in the high school football segment. And then finally, from our one-on-one interviews that we've done with athletic trainers and athletic directors, we've seen that there's a high demand for the product, with over 80% of our interviewees wanting the product in some way for their team. Once we solidified the market segment, we wanted to then find the value of the segment that we'd chosen. So we did some research and found out that there are 16,000 high school football teams across the country, made up of 1.1 million players. Using our $90 price for HITdot, we find the value of the total accessible market of $99 million. So you see that there is huge potential for success in this market. But in order to fully tap this potential, we first had to figure out how to get the product into the hands of our consumers. We've chosen to do this through a dual distribution model. This means that we will have both a regionally focused direct sales strategy as well as a national distribution strategy, which will utilize a national sports equipment distributor. Now, there are a number of reasons that we think ICEdot, as a small company located in Oklahoma, can actually be successful on the national level. The first is that we found that national distributors already have experience selling to both public and private high schools, which we found can be kind of a difficult task, as the athletic trainer is the one that makes the purchase decision, but the athletic director writes the check, and oftentimes even the booster club pitches in to cover part of the cost. In addition, utilizing a national distributor will allow us to beat our competitors to market. We think this is important because the nature of our product is technology. Because technology advances so quickly, we think that a big company such as Rydell, who already sells football equipment, could easily enter our market if they saw ICEdot having success with the HITdot. And then finally, ICEdot has already received nationwide press. First, from its partnership with USA BMX. ICEdot and its products have also been featured on the popular tech website Engadget and even on ESPN.com. And we believe that these big national names make it more likely that the HITdot can take off at the national level. So now that you've seen why we've chosen to do this dual distribution model, let's take a look at the characteristics. Through our research, we found that BSN Sports is the largest sports equipment distributor in the country. So we recommend the ICEdot partnership with them to sell the HITdots, although there are a number of other national distributors that could also work. But using BSN as an example, they currently have 300 salespeople that cover all 50 states. Each BSN salesperson sells multiple products, meaning that the HITdot might not always be their first priority. And finally, when BSN purchases the product from ICEdot, they will then have some control over the advertising and pricing of the product. Now, on the regional level with our direct sales, we recommend that ICEdot hire 2 additional salespeople that will focus strictly on the regions of Oklahoma and Texas. Each HITdot salesperson will sell only HITdots. And by utilizing this direct sales strategy, we allow ICEdot to maintain control of its brand image and its advertising. So these 2 strategies work together, as the national distribution allows us to reach a vast number of customers and beat competitors to market, while the regional sales strategy allows us to gain a larger market share in the region while maintaining control of ICEdot's brand image. We have an effective way to get to our consumers, both on the regional and the national level. But there are some other competitors that are vying for these same consumers. Jeff?
Thank you, Susan. Now, there are 3 main competitors for the HITdot. The first is the shock box. The shock box is a sensor which is placed inside a football helmet. This sensor records impact data and transmits the data to a mobile application. Now, Shockbox is a Canadian-based company that primarily focuses on the hockey market. However, recently they have successfully penetrated the United States high school football market as well. Our next competitor is the Rydell Hit System helmet. This helmet has 6 sensors built inside the helmet. These sensors do not come out. These sensors record impact data and transmit the data to a computer program. And lastly, we have the BTX2 mouthguard. This mouthguard is a sensor built in the front. This sensor records impact data and also transmits the data to a computer program. Now, we've compared these 3 products to the HITdot on 4 important criteria. The first is price. Now, based on our market research, we have determined that high schools are very price sensitive to paying for equipment for their athletes. So we have decided to price the HITdot at a reasonable $90 per sensor. This is the least expensive of all the products. Next, we compared the products for compatibility. Compatibility refers to how compatible each sensor is with different types of football helmets. Now, this is important because high schools use different brands and different models of football helmets for their players. The BTX2 mouthguard and the HITdot sensor are the only products that can be worn with any helmet, any make, and any model. Next, we compared the products for software platform availability. We are currently developing an iPad application to be paired with a HITdot sensor. However, Shockbox already has an iPad application available. They also have an iPhone application available, and they are available for Android devices. Lastly, we compared these products for medical information availability. The medical information for athletes will be available to coaches and trainers at the press of a button. These other products will not have this feature. So the HITdot has a clear advantage over the competition. But what really sets the HITdot apart is its medical information feature and our relationship with the company ICEdot. Now, this is a screen that a trainer or coach will be able to view if there's an emergency on the field. This is similar to ICEdot's current emergency identification and notification system, which costs an individual $10 a year. Now, every athlete that has a HITdot sensor will have this ICEdot membership set up in their name, which will benefit them on the field if there's an emergency, but this service extends well beyond the football field and can be used by athletes during everyday activities because you never know when an accident may happen. Now, as I said, we will bundle this service with a HITdot sensor. Our goal is to penetrate the market quickly by having the least expensive product available. And we can do this through our $90 price. We can also do this through including a 1-year free membership for ICEdot. Now, every following year, we will charge the annual $10 a year fee, and this will create a recurring revenue stream for ICEdot. Also, we believe that graduating seniors may decide to pick up on the service as they leave high school. This creates new lifetime customers for ICEdot. So the ICEdot service adds value to the HITdot sensor because the ICEdot service is an added feature that players, parents, trainers, and coaches will find valuable. And the HITdot sensor adds value to the ICEdot service because the HITdot sensor will push customers towards ICEdot and create a brand awareness for ICEdot. Now, for a more detailed analysis of our pricing plan and how this leads to long-term profitability, here's Parker. Parker?
Thank you, Jeff. Now, as Susan mentioned earlier, we recommend a 2-fold sales strategy for ICEdot. On one hand, a national distribution model, which will focus on the 16,000 high school football teams across the country. Now, on the other hand, a regional sales force model, which will focus exclusively on the state of Oklahoma and Texas. Now, through our market research, we've estimated that we can get a 10% market share within 5 years of releasing our product on the national level. Now, after factoring out the football teams in Oklahoma and Texas, this leaves us with around 1,400 schools that will buy our product within 5 years. Now, what about the regional side? Now, leveraging ICEdot's existing business relationships and geographical presence, we can get a higher market share, especially since the demand is increasingly high in the football-dominated states of Oklahoma and Texas. So this leaves us with an additional 406 teams that will purchase our product. Now, adding these together, we've estimated that just over 1,800 high schools will purchase this product within 5 years. But what are the differences between these two models? Well, the biggest draw of the national distribution model is that there are no additional fixed costs. This is because ICEdot can use a sales force that's already established across the nation that already has an existing infrastructure. However, this does come at a cost of a lower margin. But we're able to reach a large amount of customers in a relatively short time period. And this is important to mitigate the risk of new entrants into the market, as Susan touched on earlier. Now, what about the regional sales force side? Well, there will be some additional fixed costs to hire on 2 new sales force members. But this will come with much higher margins, over twice the margins of the national distribution model. And we'll still be able to reach a considerable amount of customers, nearly 25,000 in 5 years. So, looking at these two models, what are our revenue projections over the next 5 years? Here are our projections. Now, you can see that in year 2, we'll expect our first income from subscription revenue from the ICEdot service, noted in the blue, and the hardware revenue noted in the gold. Now, both the subscription revenue and the hardware revenue will grow over the 5-year period. Now, adding these together, ICEdot can expect to see close to $8 million in revenue over this 5-year period. But revenue really doesn't mean anything until we compare it to the cost. And the real question becomes, is this going to be a profitable project for ICEdot? And the answer is yes. And there are 3 principal reasons why this is so. 1, there's a low initial investment of $320,000. Now, this initial investment will cover things like research and development, hiring 2 new sales force members, and an initial advertising campaign. Second, there's a relatively quick break-even point. Within 1 year and a half, ICEdot will break even on this project. And 3, there's a high return. ICEdot can expect to see an 841% return on investment and $2.8 million in profit within 5 years. So now that we know that this project is profitable, what are the next steps to actually getting this product into the hands of the consumer? Well, here's a timeline that we would recommend that ICEdot follow over the coming months. Now, in December, we recommend that ICEdot publish the HITdot sensor and application on its existing website and social media outlets. Now, in January, there's an athletic trainers education conference where thousands of athletic directors from across the region come and are looking for new equipment and technology to purchase for their schools, a perfect avenue to promote the HITdot system. Now, in February, on the development side, we'd expect ICEdot to complete an iPhone expansion project. This is so our product can be available to a wider consumer base, and also to begin our beta testing. Now, one of the best ways we're going to do our beta testing starts in the spring football season, because we recommend that ICEdot partner with 10 high school football teams across the nation. Now, these high school football teams will be able to test our product in real time and give us feedback on what they think can be improved before we release our final project in a few months. But also, this will act as an advertising campaign, because the 10 schools we selected, noted here on the map, either they have suffered from a high-profile concussion-related injury in the recent past, or they are large, trend-setting high school football teams across the nation. Now, in May, we recommend that ICEdot hire the 2 new sales force members and also start an advertising campaign in the NATA magazine, which is the National Athletic Trainers Association magazine, which has over 32,000 registered athletic trainers reading this magazine every single month. And they're often making purchasing decisions based on the content of this magazine. Now, starting in that month and pursuing for the next 3 months, we expect ICEdot to pursue a grassroots advertising campaign, which has already proven successful for past products. Now, all this will be done, and we'll publish the final application on the App Store in July. And that will be ready for us to sell the product before the next football season begins in August. So what have we learned today? Undetected concussions in high school sports are a huge problem. And the HITdot system is the solution to that problem. And this system will help stop preventable long-term brain injuries like those suffered by Zachary Lystedt. With that, we'd like to thank you, and now I'll open the floor to any questions that you may have.